was sort of abandoning in Boston, on the North Shore of Boston, at the Beverly YMCA, about 2 years ago, there was a man who identifies as a woman, and he took his daughter, biological daughter, that he is her father, but he identifies as a woman, took his daughter to the YMCA and into the women's locker room and began to change with his daughter. Well, again, not surprisingly, the other women and daughters, mothers and daughters in that locker room complained to management, and he was asked to leave. Fortunately, at that point, and I think still currently, the city of Beverly does not have the same ordinance that Boston has, and that certain folks are trying to make the law throughout the Commonwealth. So we call it the bathroom bill because it gets your attention and kind of summarizes where the rubber hits the road more than public accommodations, which is the actual title of the bill. So there are two budget amendments right now. If you look in your activist packet, this is, I think, the first page after the agenda is talking points on this issue. And so we're encouraging you to go to your legislator, your state rep, your state senator, and ask them to vote in favor of two budget amendments. Budget amendments are ways of getting issues like this in front of the legislature, requiring an up or down vote. The legislature will be held accountable on a variety of issues, and this is one of them. So the first, House Budget Amendment 813, would undo the existing bathroom bill and really sort of take the momentum out of this movement. The second would be, it's a little more targeted, and what it would do is amend the existing law to clarify that for the purposes of bathrooms, locker rooms, single-sex facilities and programs, your sex and your gender is your anatomical, biological sex, right? The way you were born, male or female, 8th grade biology at the genetic level. So that would really clarify things because these bills are part of a whole movement to really redefine what it means to be a man or a woman, and not base it on, again, the obvious anatomy or biology, but on sort of your internal feelings. That's the legal standard. Ultimately is you are whatever you feel like on the inside. And obviously that's a concern for abuse, and as parents, as a husband, we're concerned about the privacy and safety of our children. For me, for my wife as well, in public bathrooms and locker rooms, and in schools as well. We saw there was an 11-page single-spaced policy put out advocating from the State Department of Education, saying that all bathrooms, locker rooms, and athletic teams have to be open to anyone of either gender, based on their gender identity. So you could have a 17-year-old male who decides he wants to play girls basketball. He can play in the girls basketball team and take the place of an actual girl on that varsity team, potentially. And then after the game's done, go shower in the girls' locker room. So this is what we're trying to stop. We're not trying to be mean to anybody. We just want to protect the privacy and safety of our children and our wives. Any questions on this bill? Yes, ma'am. I think that was in Michigan, maybe. It was a Planet Fitness. Okay, so sort of like. I'm sorry, repeat the question. Right. So the question was, wasn't there a fitness place somewhere in the country where this issue came up? And that's right. I think it was a month or so ago. A Planet Fitness out in, I think, Michigan. Yeah. Right. There was a man who said he's a woman, and he went to use the women's locker room, and one of the actual women there complained and tried to alert the people of this. And what the management of the Planet Fitness did is they kicked out the woman who was concerned about her privacy and safety. And she was a member of Planet Fitness, and they kicked her out. And that is what will happen if these laws get passed, because that woman, under this proposed Massachusetts law, is discriminating against someone with gender identity disorder. And all she's trying to do is protect her own privacy and safety. So we see these competing rights, sort of the sexual, pansexual freedom rights movement is coming up against not only our personal privacy and safety, but also increasing our religious freedom and religious liberties. It is unfortunately a zero-sum game. So that's why we have to stand for our rights. Yes, sir. Yes, the question was, can you get in trouble just for calling a man a man? man says he's a woman? And the answer is yes. I've already had people come to my office. One woman who was a counselor for adults with developmental issues, or a residential counselor. She had a client who is a woman, but the woman believes she's a man. So the counselor who came to me said, I can't in good conscience refer to my client as a man, because I believe God made us male and female. You know, be denying my God if I refer to this woman, who's clearly a woman, and I'm a female, as a male. And she was worried about getting fired, because her supervisor had told her, when you talk about this client with me, you have to refer to him as him, because that's what this woman has claimed she is, as a man. So there is that threat of being punished for speech. And also, just a second, also in the policy that was put out from the Department of Education that said, you know, boys get to use the girls' bathroom and locker room in sports teams, and vice versa, it said if a student is uncomfortable with that and says something, they should be disciplined. So, yes, Diane. Right. The children are being, frankly, indoctrinated on this issue. Yes, Lance.
So, I mean, the hope, of course, is to repeal, which would eliminate the bills, which would be great. However, going forward and looking in the future, this is more of a statement, or maybe even a question. Would it be classification of a person's genetic birth? Because, as you know, my job, we presently actively do gender reassignment. So when they leave my presence, or at least my institution's presence, they are no longer anatomically their original sex. So they have gender reassignment surgery completely from head to toe. So the only differentiating would be the DNA.
That's a good question. At this point, the law reads anatomy. So if someone actually has complete top and bottom surgery, as it's referred to, I mean, I'm not sure what you do at that point, right? I mean, there was a school in Maine that had a young boy, actually twin boys. One of the boys believes that he's actually a girl. He's gone through all sorts of procedures, I think mostly hormonal. It's really sad. This is a kid giving hormonal treatments, and I don't think he has had surgery yet. But the school wasn't sure what to do to sort of protect everyone's privacy and safety, and also care for this child who's got some serious issues. So it's like you can use a single stall staff bathroom. That way, so everyone's going to protect it. The family sued the school and just won. I don't know what the amount of damages was, but they won the legal right to be able to have this boy use the girls' bathroom. So it's unfortunately, for a lot of folks who are advocating this, it's not enough to say, look, you know, here's a single-use facility for you, because, right, you cannot change the DNA.
We are educated to refer to them as they desire.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I actually still at this date have the legal right to abstain, so I do. Same with abortion, I have the legal right to abstain, so I do. However. Yes, I believe you, under the current law, you have a legal right, as freedom of your religious conscience, if nothing else, to abstain from calling a man a woman and vice versa. But I don't get involved in it. I remove myself from the opportunity.
Right. But we're seeing that freedom of conscience even come under attack. Yes, ma'am. A changing room at a Macy's that they couldn't control what goes in. I certainly believe that, because, again, the way the law currently reads, and for the definition of gender identity, it can be determined by surgery or hormones or medical treatment, or, this is really the catch-all provision at the bottom, which is really scary, or any sincerely held belief that they are sort of what they think they are on the inside. So there's no way to police it. You know, I mean, Jonathan, clearly a man, he could walk into a woman's bathroom and just say, I'm identifying as female today, and look like that. And I'm picking on him. Yeah, I'll pay for that later. It's been.
If either of the amendments pass today, will that require Commissioner Chester to rescind the bathroom bill as well?
It's a good question. If either of the budget amendments, I'll get to you next, ma'am, absolutely. If any of the budget amendments that we're advocating for today were passed, would that require the Commissioner of Education to rescind his guidelines? Unfortunately, the good news is we made a lot of noise when these guidelines came out and forced him to admit that he couldn't require local school committees to enact them. They were his policy guidance. They certainly didn't read like guidance. They read like this is what you have to do. So yes, they would require him, I believe, to rescind those. I think under the current law, he went beyond the scope of the law. He sort of said that, well, because there's no discrimination in education, then I can take control of the education area, including the bathrooms and locker rooms in the schools, and say whatever I want. So there would certainly be a very strong argument against that. And again, to remind everyone, that policy guidance is just that, it's guidelines. So if your local school district is saying you have to open up bathrooms to people of either gender or sex, that is not true. That's not the law. Lady in the back, ma'am, do you have a question?
Yes, I definitely want to find out about school issue, where they say from K to 12, and we need bathrooms and washroom rooms for the gender of these folks. Basically, what I'm asking is, I know that they don't want to discriminate or whatever, but the fact is that they can make a bathroom that is for them personally, because that is really interfering with children, you know, in terms of their safety, and when they go to the bathroom, they want to feel safe as well. I think that, you know, if you're a girl, you don't want a boy in the bathroom, and if you're a boy, you don't want a little girl in the bathroom. Or maybe yes, but I
No, that's a great concern. If you have students who are suffering from gender identity disorder, and until recently, until last year, this was classified gender identity disorder in the psychological sort of diagnostic manual. They've reclassified it as gender dysphoria, but it is, you know, these children are suffering. So what do we do? Your suggestion, which I agree, and I think is complies with the existing law, is to allow them to use maybe a staff bathroom. Because if say it's a boy, but they're having hormones and they're dressing like a girl, there's really not a comfortable place for them. So you want to do your best to help the child. So you give them a staff bathroom. The problem with that is, as you'll see in the second article, behind Mr. Vernikoff, who was in the women's shelter, there's an article about that student in Maine. Again, Maine law doesn't apply to us, but it shows sort of where the movement is going, where that was what the school had done for this young boy who believed he was a girl. It was allowed him to use the staff bathroom, and he sued the school because he wanted to use the girls' bathroom.
on what grounds and why?
Sure. The grounds were that the school was discriminating against him based on his gender identity.
So is the law currently a suggestion, or is it enforceable as far as restaurants?
Right.
So in a restaurant, they could use the women's room and the restaurant can't do anything about it because the law states they can't, or is it up to the restaurant whether or not they allow
Under
it?
the current law, it's up to the restaurant, because the restaurant is a public accommodation. Okay, and so the public accommodation, including the restaurant itself and its bathroom, that provision was specifically taken out of the law that was passed in 2011.
Except for Boston and Cambridge.
Well, that's, okay, thank you. So that says the statewide law. Now, there are municipal laws in I think it's about 14 different cities now. Boston, Cambridge, not surprising, Salem, Massachusetts. I think we could get a list. We should put a list on the website. So you have to look at the state law and also your city as well. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
So let me get this understand.
If you can understand it, you'd be ahead of all of us.
Yeah, okay. The question that I have is simply this. So, this guy sees this pretty-looking girl and says, oh, I need to use the ladies' room. Okay, see where I'm coming from? And he goes in there. Do you see where I'm coming from?
I do.
They have to have a letter from their doctor that they are on certain hormones, that they have to go into the male or female's room, whatever.
And that's unfortunately not how the law is written. So as of right now, statewide, there's no law that says that the bathrooms have to be open to anyone of either gender. But that's what's being pushed for. But the definition of gender identity does not require any medical notification or hormonal treatment. So that's why one of the arguments we're making is that, look, this is a recipe for abuse. You could take any guy who could, for whatever reason, go into a woman's bathroom, and there's going to be real sort of cultural pressure and legal pressure to not question him at all, because all he has to say is, well, I'm a woman. I'm presenting as male today, but I'm a woman on the inside, and who are you to judge me, discriminate against me based on my gender identity? And then, so the natural warning signs to a woman, if she sees a man in the bathroom, that's usually a problem, right? But that instinct is going to be obliterated by this, cultural normalization of gender identity disorder. I think probably over time, I want Jonathan to be able to sort of talk you through how to best approach our state reps and state senators to let them know our shared family values. So thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you. All right, if you have your packets, the ones that are binder clips, you can unclip them because we're going to work through some of the letters and documents that are in there. So I'm going to give you some lobby day instructions. There are 8 points. We'll split them up in 2. The first 4 just talk about things you probably already know. That this building is confusing. It's hard to get around. There are maps stationed in select places in the hallways, as well as the room numbers that are listed on, plaques on the wall. So if you're lost trying to find the room number of your representative that is on the blue folder, just look at the walls and that should get you there. If you get really lost, you can always come back to this room. This is room 437. And one of us will be here and probably help you walk down to the representative's office. So if you're lost, feel free to come back or just follow a map. Also, the security guards are here. You can ask them as well. So we've gone over a lot of talking points and the representatives spoke, and a couple of us have mentioned some bills that we're following. Take some time before you go into the representative's office to read the talking points, just so you're familiar with what it says. It's generally best to have one person be the spokesperson, so if you go with a group of 2 or 3, just designate one person who's read through and who understands these points well to be the one that's discussing. But of course, even if you're there and you're not the designated spokesperson, it's also good to introduce yourself and let them know what town you're from and that area representative. When you walk into the representative's office, make sure you have the blue folder with you. So the blue folder that you were handed will have both the representative's name and their room number. Make sure you leave them with this folder. So you hand them this folder. When you do give them this folder, and this is a third point, when you introduce yourself and give them your name after the talking points, and you do give them this folder, make sure that your temperament when you're in the office is polite and sweet, right? Polite and brief is how it's written, but short and sweet is the best way to communicate what are tense issues. A lot of the things that we spoke about today are controversial, but we feel deeply about them. The best way to communicate a message is usually with a smile and an air of politeness. So make sure you're short but also sweet when you communicate these messages. If your legislator is not there, chances are if they have a vote or if they're running around, they won't be in the office, and you're only able to meet with the staffer. First thing you can do is ask, where is the representative? Will he be back in the office in 10 minutes? Say you can wait around for him, or you're welcome to come back at a better time today. The staffer will generally be open to even taking your cell phone number and calling you back if you're still in this building and telling you that the representative is back in the office. You can come back in and meet with him. So be prepared to wait around maybe 10 minutes and tell the staffer there that you're willing to do so that you meet with the representative. These next 4 points are regarding the other documents that are in the folder or in the binder clip. Be sure when you meet with your legislator or you meet with a staffer that you do this first. You leave a letter with each of them, so either your state senator or your state representative. And the letter will have a place to fill out their name as well as your name down at the bottom. So you can fill it out, write their name, address them where it says "Dear," and then write your own name with your signature and your address, just so they know how to contact